Right, and boom, we're live. It's gonna be mellow tonight. It's doing some composition here. Drinking my mocha. All my chocolate settling to the bottom. That's what happens with homemade mochas. So much better. Just kind of dropping guitar picks here, checking out things, making sure stuff is up and running. Looks like we're in pretty good shape here. Just want to find my stuff. Make sure we're going. Curious about live space here. I've not been able to change my category on it. So okay. Once it's running, it says music. Oh, perfect. Okay, we're good. Totally golden here. Good. All right. So, composition. Writing some music. We're working on my 68th album here. This is Asymmic Writings Part 4, subtitled Sacred Oblivion. For those who may not be aware, every 17th album I do is part of the Asymmic Writings series. So this is my 4th, because 17 times 4 is 68, and that's just the way that I count. And the thing that's unique about the Asymmic Writings is every Asymmic Writings album has just one song, and that song is 52 minutes 25 seconds long. And I bring it in tight. When I render these in my system, I bring it into within 1,000th of a second of 52:25. I am very exacting about this. And so I'm recording my 67th album currently, and that's coming along really nicely. But this one has kind of been bugging me because it has been incomplete. So earlier today I started, it's not that the composition is incomplete, but that the structure of it has been incomplete. And so I wanted to start filling out the structure of this particular piece and start getting things in place properly, because that's where I generally start writing an album. Is I just write all of the drums, and so this one I've written probably probably about a half hour's worth, maybe 35 minutes worth of this particular song, and but I didn't have the full drum structure in place, so I've been throwing the drum structure in earlier today, and I was like, I should get on stream and just do this. And so that's what we're up to. So there's sheet music going there. And yeah, so let me pop this. Boom. So this area down here, let me embigorize this a bit. So basically anywhere that's got the darker gray areas are areas that have something in those measures. And if I zoom in here, you can see like this measure here, measure 11. So that's an empty measure. So that doesn't have the darker gray area. And so it's just kind of it's a good way to zoom around your composition. And so we can see here that we got quite a lot of music in here. And right now I think that the end time signature is not quite 52 minutes. We're sitting at about 45 minutes here. This track is the drums that just turned blue, and you can see the blue line down here in the navigating area as well. So I've got the drums pretty well laid out. I will probably need to add some more in, And so these areas that are kind of largely, these areas are largely filled in. Those are the guitars and bass for the most part. Got some clean tone guitars here. Got a few areas where I've got some of my orchestration put in. And so yeah, this one, like when working on other music, it's bothered me that this one, even though I'm not on it yet, technically, it's bothered me that I haven't filled in the structure properly. So I think where I want to go today is right into this area. And I think I'm gonna work a couple of spots here. I think right before section H. And when I put my music together, I always have these sections, and usually it'll be like, sections A, B, and C, and then I'll have like some, break or an intro, outro kind of thing. On these, I'm up to section S, T already. So what T is the 20th. So I've got 20 sections. I've got multiple break sections and interludes and intros. And so, because the song is friggin' 52 minutes long, yeah, it takes a bit. There's a lot. I don't want to just have 3 sections repeated over and over and over for 52 minutes. When I get this done, I will be playing all 4 Asymmetric Writings pieces in a single show. I have done the first 3 live. I just did number 3 live for the first time about a half year ago. And these are, it's pretty wild playing these things live. There's a lot going on here. But I think I'm gonna, so at this point the song, we are about 13 minutes deep. And I think I'm gonna put a nice slow section here. So we've basically the intro on this. On the first 3 Asymmetric Writings, they all start out with a clean tone guitar. So they kind of have a lighter, I should say clean tone or lightly distorted guitars. They got a cleaner intro. And this one I decided to just go full on, right from the get-go. And just kind of hit a little harder as we go into it, which I think is it'll be a good change. I don't want all of these to follow the exact same structure. Now on the first 2 were done when I was filming my lead guitar recordings, and I could only do up to, I think it's 29 minutes 59 seconds recording on my cameras. So I had to put a lighter area in the middle and do a camera change at that point. So I don't have that limitation now because I'm not still videoing these that same way. So I wanted to kind of break up my softer areas. So I've always kind of followed that, middle section being an interlude type of a section. And I do have that here after section L, which is an area I might work on today. Or where is that? Yeah, right after that. So I've got this kind of orchestral start here. And I've got some really cool areas written with some clean tone guitars. I need to turn this up. This should not affect you guys too much. Okay, that's weird. Huh. There's a key command for turning the mixer on and off. For some reason it's not working right now, but that's all right. I don't think this should make any difference. Okay, yeah, you guys should be hearing full volume. I got nothing, so this should not affect what goes to the stream. I got that section. Got this other light. I'm thinking I might put this little section here up earlier in the song. But I kind of got to figure out how I want to approach this, because this ends up being revisited later on electric guitar. How does that happen? Where are we at here? Okay, I don't have a particular section number for that yet. Section letter, I should say. I really like that little clean tone guitar part. How does that play? It's that's kind of cool, yeah. And I know somewhere later this ends up on a distorted guitar. Oh, because I've got this listed as section O. All right. So same exact thing, just with a different feel to it. And I might actually leave that approximately where it is. And then also put it earlier. And I'm thinking it might be kind of cool to leave it here. And here maybe I'll do it with a light distortion. Put it as a clean tone earlier in the song. So each time you hear it, the 3 times you hear it, kind of ups the intensity. I'm kind of digging that idea. Yeah, I think I'm going to give that a shot. And pasting things around in this program can be a little funky. Let's see if I get this right. Okay. Yeah, and one thing that I've never cared for is I've had a key signature change here to A minor, and that moved it. But this piece looks like it is in A minor, so that actually works fine in this case. Okay. So that's kind of cool. So that adds on. So I really need to watch my time frames on this, because I am so stringent about the 52-minute, 25-second mark. That has to be hit dead on exactly. That's just, it's always been that way. And what happened with that, when I was doing my 16th album, Eigengrau, I had written a song called Empty World, and that ended up being fairly long. It was I think it was about 17 minutes, a little over 17. And, excuse me. So I'd written that, and it was really, really cool writing that nice long song like that. And so when I started writing my 17th album, I knew it was going to be called Asymmetric Writings, but I hadn't had any other ideas. So I was just writing a normal album. And right away I started writing that piece, and I was like, oh, this is going to be long. This is going to be another long song. So I'd kind of gotten myself in long song mode on Eigengrau. And then this comes along, I'm like, okay, this is going to be another long piece. And within a few minutes, I was like, I think this album is going to be just one song. Yeah, I think that's going to be happening. And so as soon as I had that thought, I was like, I'm going to make this 52 minutes, 25 seconds. And I would say within probably like 3 or 4 seconds, I just had the thoughts, okay, it's going to be 52 minutes, 25 seconds, and every 17th album is going to follow suit. Done deal. That's just how it's going to be. So that's what I did. and I have enjoyed the crap out of it. It's been a good time. Okay, so now I want to make sure that I'm transitioning reasonably here. And this should work pretty well. Okay, I've got that going, I think, too slow. What is my tempo doing here? Zarniver, hey! Zarniver's coming in from Kick.com. Thanks for being here, Zarniver. My evening goes well. I've just been hanging out, making music, and decided to do it on stream. So that's what's going on over here. How you doing, man? Hope things are going well. Okay, I need to. Okay, wait a minute. So where's this section at up here? That's at 124. Oh, I see. I took this down to. Okay, I see exactly what we got going on here. Doing not too bad. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Well, if you are a music theory geek, you are in luck tonight because we are geeking out on music here. Now, right now, I'm working with tempos and stuff primarily. So that's 112. So I need to get this down to 124. And for sheet music lovers, you will sometimes see this as, so you got this mark here, quarter note equals 112. And sometimes it will say MM, quarter note equals 112. And people mistakenly refer to that as metronome mark, which is a really good term for it. But it actually stands for Melzel's metronome. Melzel was, I don't know if I'm saying that name correctly, but he was he's attributed as the first person to come up with the metronome concept. So we refer to him that way. And now I need to get to, no, that's not working. It's gonna be hard to find. There's a little, kind of, let me see if that gives me what I need. That does, okay. So I need to set my retardando here. Now retardando is a slowing down of the music. And I want to set this for 125. Now we should be about right. That tempo sounds a little closer to what we're looking for. Oh, what just happened here? Oh, there we are. There we are. All right. So now let's get a feel of that and see if that feels right. I almost feel like I might want to bring this back like 2 measures. All right, tools for toys. I'm going to get with your question in just a moment. Apparently, there are just a lot of people on Kick who don't seem to realize that I don't mind banning people. So the Smeefer, so just so you know, you're being banned, and I have never once unbanned a person. It's never happened. I've had a few people petition me to unban them, but I have not done that. So you're banned, and I'm just going to take a screenshot of your comment, and we will not be seeing you again. So there we go with that. I don't understand why it's so hard for some people to just comport themselves properly in public. And when you're on the internet, you're in public. But hey, Tools for Toys, thank you very much for coming in. I wanted to thank you. I did not see your tip yesterday until after the show. I always try to thank people during the show. Thank you very much for the $9.99 tip yesterday. That was awesome. And as far as your question, what software is this? This is a program called Sibelius, named after the composer, Jean Sibelius. And it's rather an expensive program. It's one that I do not suggest people go out and go after. It's very powerful, and I generally urge people to use a software called MuseScore, which is free, and it's pretty much as powerful as this. There's a couple of things I can do in this that don't work as well in MuseScore. The drum programming, the drum composition in MuseScore is not very strong, and that's one thing that I really need. Sibelius is kind of known as kind of the king of percussion when it comes to the bigger notation softwares. The big ones are Sibelius and Finale. And there's another fairly big contender, Dorico, that actually is some of the former creators of Sibelius have created Dorico. And I've played around with that one a little bit. It is a very good piece of software. But these are all, when I say expensive, we're talking like, $600 for the software. It's pretty absurd for most people. And unless this is also another thing that is really cool about this, that's very easy to do with this one, is when I'm doing my live shows, Reaper, my recording program, which is what my microphone is hooked up to, my guitar is hooked up to, that actually connects to the sheet music program and turns the pages for me. So when I'm playing, I don't have my albums memorized, so the sheet music's up there, it's scrolling by in time, it's really cool. And very, very good stuff. So that's what's going on with that. That's the program. And so if you do it in sheet music, then definitely going out. Common programs for sheet music for guitarists is Guitar Pro. And I also have Guitar Pro. I started using Guitar Pro on Guitar Pro version 5, and that was quite good. When they went to version 6, they made a few really good changes, and then, in my opinion, they made some changes that made it less functional. In particular, like setting up tempos and stuff became much more laborious. And then on version 7, I remember I got version 7, and they got it, and they're like, because you're a license holder, the license is half off. So I spent like $30 on version 7, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. And at this point, I was already using Sibelius, but I would often lead people to Guitar Pro. And now they're on version 8, and I just feel like they've kind of doubled down on the things where they went wrong on version 6 instead of fixing them. And even MuseScore, I urge people, go get MuseScore 3. They came out with MuseScore version 4 probably less than a year ago. And everyone I've talked to, my students who use it, I've got a friend who does friend and student who does professional compositions for choirs. Everyone who uses it has been like, nah, 3 was where they got it right. And so sometimes I feel like, they're making changes rather than improvements. And it's like, no, you need to make improvements. If you don't got improvements to make, you're good. Let it go. So anyway, that's kind of my spiel on software for notation. So while I'm yakking here, you remember Sibelius from your days in school? Yeah. No, it's a good program. Sibelius is a very strong piece of software. If it's the kind of stuff that you're going to be using. Not very many people would use it for heavy metal the way I do, but that doesn't mean anything. So I think I'm just going to bring these guitars and I'll just let them ring out over this. And I've also brought this bass note down. So I was on a D note here, which is so I was on a D chord. So I changed the bass. Now I'm just going to let the D chord ring out over the A. Let's see how that fits in there. Work with that. Yeah. So I think that somewhere now I'm gonna bring in some pizzicato strings. Pizzicato is it's when like a violin player, viola, cello player, they stop using the bow and they start plucking with the finger. And it's a very cool sound. And I'm just thinking that some pizzicato strings on the second half of this might work really well. So I'm actually gonna bring in just the guitars. Oops. And the string section. Close our view up here. So we're just looking at that. And I think I'm gonna actually start these. I feel like a little something else is needed right in this area. So what do we got? We're basically based around, and we've got an A with the 6, the 7, and the 5. So we basically got a A minor 7 chord here. A minor 7 add 13 chord-ish for the measure. So let's try this. I'm gonna go kind of syncopated on this. So that would be the 5. And this particular feel I always really like. I use this all over in my music, where you have this particular syncopation of play the 1 and then the and of 2, the and of, so 1 and the and of 1, and of 2, and of 3, and of 4. So we're not playing the actual 2, 3, or 4 beats. And that sounds kind of like that. And then I want to make this a pizzicato sound. And if I recall correctly, I can do that in here. No. Oh, where does that one? Oh, you know what? And this is kind of a funky thing about Sibelius is you can put in text and it will have the. Don't know if it's you on YouTube, but I have some noise buzzing. I just turned down my guitar. Let me know if that changes it. If not, I'm not sure where it would be coming from, but I do appreciate the feedback, and I will listen back to the recording afterward and see if I can pinpoint it. But yeah, in Sibelius, if you don't put the text in correctly, so there's like expression text, technique text, a special text just for tempos, and so you definitely got to have the right one or it won't function correctly. So let me try this. Oh yeah, this will be it. There we go. Pizzicato, P-I-Z-Z for pizzicato. So that's the basic sound there. And I don't know if I'm going to end up actually liking this. So let's put it into the ensemble. I want that down once we're on an A, C, E. And so now we're on a C chord, C, E, and G. Let's go to the 7 there. Let's see if that. I think I'm gonna change the feel a little bit. To go unsyncopated here. So we'll come down to the G note there, and then the A. And then what I will generally do on something like this is I will bring this in and then harmonize it. I'm thinking just in thirds here, but go down below, so these will be a sixth apart. But I may want to go do some contrary motion on this. We might be changing this. Oh, okay, so it was coming from the guitar. All right, that makes sense. Just not sure if this is going to fit in. Well, let me get a little more context here. I definitely like the way it leads into this particular second iteration of the riff. That's cool. And I think that it might just be kind of coming in a little too present. So I think what I might do is pull this back here, and now I can take the pizzicato commands off of this one. Let me make this so I can see it a little better. Boom. Okay. So I think that we're just going to have and actually let's make these quarter notes. And how do we want to do this? We're definitely not going to want B notes here, because that's going to clash pretty heavily with the chord that we're playing. So this section is A minor, and it's pretty much, really not much of a chord progression. It's kind of centered primarily around the A minor chord for pretty much all the way through. We kind of got this A minor and then a sharp 4. So it'd be like an A minor add sharp 11 chord with bass. And when I say these numbers, if you don't know music theory, the numbers probably won't make a lot of sense. But essentially, you've got a scale. Got Black with No Contact just followed on kick.com. Thank you very much. Hope you are enjoying the show. Much appreciated. So when you have a scale, and this is true of major scale, minor scale, if you're playing with modes, whatever it is, generally speaking, scales are constructed with 7 notes. That's the most common. You can have 5-note scales, 6-note, 8-note, 9-note, 12-note. 4-note scales are kind of hard to justify as a scale, because you're probably just playing a chord. But Black with No Contact says, hello, music major here. Oh, very cool. And enjoying this. That's great. I hope you are maybe picking some stuff up. As a music educator, I always love hearing something like that. It's like, oh, I like what you're doing because I study this too. That's very cool. What kind of music are you studying? I would like to hear about what you got going on. But anyway, so we got a scale. So you got 7 notes. And so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then the 8th note that we play would be the root note again. So in this case, I played an A minor, which is the scale we're using here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just on and on and on for as long as you go. But you can also refer to the second octave by continuing to count up to 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The 15th note would be the root again. So there's 2 different ways to refer to them. And when we're building chords out of a scale, once we've constructed the scale and we want to construct a chord, we will generally do what's known as tertiary chords. Tertiary means building in thirds. So we take the first note, the 3rd note, the 5th note, the 7th note, Now the 1, 3, and the first, third, and fifth notes are the chord. That's the basic. Like if you're making bread, that's just your basic flour, yeast, water, salt, right? It's going to be a very boring loaf of bread. But then when you add on what we call extensions, the 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th notes, then that's like, make cinnamon raisin bread. You're making it much more exciting. You're putting some other stuff, making some herb spice bread or whatever. And so that's kind of how the chords work. So if I say I have an 11, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I'm taking the 11th note of the scale. The 11th note of the scale is the same note as the 4th note of the scale. And so we often will refer to these numbers somewhat interchangeably. And there's different ways that you might think about why you would use the 4 or the 11 in your chord nomenclature. And if people out there listening, if this makes no sense to you at all, don't worry about it. This is not something that most people need to understand at all. But here, this would be like taking that 4th note or 11th note of my scale and also making it a sharp note. So I would take that note out of the scale, and so my actual chord there is that. And that 4th note of the scale being out of key, that is adding a nice element of tension. And what we end up with here is what's known as a diminished fifth between the sharp 4 and the root. And that diminished fifth is very cool. Its inversion is known as the augmented fourth is known as a tritone. And so I could think of this as an augmented fourth. There's a lot of ways you can think about this stuff, but it's a very restless feel and makes the listener feel like the music needs to go somewhere. So Black with No Contact says, I'm sorry, I'm saying your name wrong. Black with No Tact. Oh, Black with No Tact. Awesome. I'm actually just a music general major, but I'm going into music therapy. Oh, very cool. Music therapy. That's awesome. Just did a project on 9th and 11th chords. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the kind of stuff that we're talking about here. And so, and where this information becomes useful is if I know, I can look at this and I can say, okay, well, this is all centered around an A chord, an A note here. And this repetition, or what would be known as a pedal tone in this case, would be pretty, and with everything leading up to it based around the A minor chord, but we're still very much centered around the A note here. And I can look at this and say, okay, well, this is the 5, this is the 8 or the 1 again, and then I've got the 6 and I've got the 7. So I know what's going on in my piece of music here. I can look at this 2 measures, even though it's played as a series of notes, and I can say, okay, well, that all together gives me an A minor 7 add 13 without the 3. Technically would be the chord that we're working with here. But then I can use that information to say, okay, well, I don't have the 3 in the guitar. Well, I can put the 3 in this pizzicato violin. So now I'm rounding out this chord. I didn't provide all of the notes of the chord here, but I can do it here. Cool. And I can maybe put these down on the root. So now I've got the 1 and the 3 here in the pizzicato violins. And then I've got the 5 and the 1 up here. Or I might decide to do something a little different. It depends on how this goes. But the reason I'm bringing these back here, which a little repetitious right there, so I'm probably going to change some of those notes around, but I kind of want to more gently bring us in, where when I had these just not in there at all, oops, and suddenly we just came up here and it just kind of hits us with the pizzicato strings, I feel like it's a little out of place. So what I can do is I can put onto here a hairpin, what's known as a crescendo mark. And then to make this work correctly in Sibelius, I do need to put in my markings here. And the three P's, P would stand for pianissimo, and then two P's is pianissimo, pianissimo, pianississimo. It's a little cumbersome on the tongue. I often end up hiding these and just looking at the hairpins, because these aren't going to be played by people. This is going to be played by just a sampler. And so I often keep it a little bit cleaner. But if I were writing this for people, I would probably put this as like just a pianissimo mark, just two P's, and let it go that way. Quinn's Wonderland, thank you very much for following on Kick.com. You know, Kick is really interesting. I really enjoy the platform, and I've had some very cool people come in. But I've also had to ban more people than on all of my other platforms combined. I'm streaming out to 15 websites, and I've had to ban more people on Kick than anywhere else. And I think what happened is, another fellow musician. Great, we got a few musicians in here. When Kick first came about, there was this misinformation went out that there was no terms of service, and so people thought they could just come on and just do whatever they want, and that was not. And one of the ways you could know that was not true was by scrolling to the bottom of the page and clicking on the part that says terms of service. How do I manage chat? It is a lot. It's pretty big. So right now, so one of the websites I stream to is called Afrika.tv. It's a Korean website. That one, I could never get the chat to work properly. So on that particular website, I put a message in the on my page that says, my apologies, I cannot read your chat. Feel free to come over to these other sites if you'd like to chat with us. But then what I've got, so my computer system here is just absurdly cool. It's crazy. I got a really nice recording desk here. Got my piano I'm learning, my keyboard I'm learning to play with piano sounds. And so I have 5 monitors. So I've got a large monitor right in front of me. And then on each side, I've got 2 monitors stacked. And so in upper left, upper right, lower right, I have chat windows open. And the furthest right, I've got a thing called Sheep Chat, which combines most of the chats. And then I've got all of my other chats open, and I will check those because Sheep Chat it's a really cool program, but it's a little bit clunky at times. So I don't always fully trust it. And so I do have each of those open, and I know like Rumble and Vaughn I don't think are in Sheep Chat. No, yeah, those are not. LiveSpace does not work in Sheep Chat, and Facebook currently is not working in Sheep Chat. So yeah, it's pretty busy. And then in my lower left monitor, I have my broadcast software, OBS, which is a very powerful program right there. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, you know, and yeah, Kick, Black with No Tact. Kick it's very interesting. There are a lot of really cool streamers on there, and there's some great content. And then at the same time, it's like some of the stuff, it's like what? And then there's, I was blown away last night. So one of the streaming platforms I use is called DLive, and again, I really like it. But I went on there last night to see something in my profile, and there was this is no kidding, on the front page, there was a live stream of a cockfight. Hens with knives strapped to them fighting each other to the death. And I'm like, how can this possibly be allowed to be streamed live? I was like, you are crazy. I didn't even know what to think. I'm like, what? And it's like, it's this thing. You could see people on the side with their money and they're betting on this cockfight. And I'm like, no freaking way. And I'm like, I don't understand the world. So yeah, tools are toys. That is true. YouTube is still relevant. I agree. And that's the thing, you know, I really like all of the streaming platforms, even though sometimes I got to ban people, you know, and I banned someone yesterday from Kick, banned someone today from Kick. But you know what? That's part of this gig that we're doing here. That if you're going to be live, it's going to happen. So not a big deal, you know? So I think I'm going to fiddle with this a little bit. So if I bring this up to a D note here, that's going to be the 7. No, sorry, that'll be a 4. I don't see, now here, so I've got this sharp 4 back here. I don't think I want a sharp 4 on this part, but let me experiment with that. Let me just see how that sharp 4 feels. Oh, you know what? I forgot to, and let me actually put something else out here while I'm doing it. I have probably saved this file about 20 times in the 45 minutes that I've been streaming. If you're save your file often, please. But now I need to put in the mezzo forte mark, because without that, the hairpin alone is not enough in this program to make it work. So I had to put in my hidden pianissimo, and then I put in my mezzo forte. Okay, I'm going to ignore that one. People are great. That's not enough to get you banned, but come on, people. Exactly. that one is just a sigh worthy. But yeah, I'm just going to go back to what I said earlier. I really wish people would understand that when you're on the internet, you're in public. So please learn how to comport yourselves in public. So yeah, actually that sharp 4, I'm kind of digging there. We've got that pretty well established back here. And this is interesting too, for the music theory geeks out there. This is a sharp 4 for the scale, but it's also, in a way, it's acting as a sharp 7 to the E. And, or I shouldn't necessarily say a sharp 7, it's acting as a major 7 to the E note. And what that essentially does is it kind of primes our ears for this E note. And even though that's the 5 of the chord, that can still, basically anything that moves by a half step being 1 fret on a guitar, 1 key on a piano, that half step move kind of, oh yes, sorry, I didn't show the score yet. Thank you very much. Boom. There we go. Yep. So there's our D sharp. And so that's kind of acting as a leading tone, that half step move up to the E. Oh, Nick, you're a saxophone player. Very cool. Yeah, I've got a saxophone back in the corner here. I am not much of a saxophone player. I was playing live about 4 days ago. I played Incomprehensible Isolation. That's my 65th album. And on that, I was telling the story that on that album, I actually wrote a song in which I intended to play a saxophone, and I recorded that with the saxophone, and I really liked the song, but then when I played it with the album, it just didn't sound right. So I ended up playing guitar on it, and it worked really well. But man, I love saxophone. My Coltrane, baby. Coltrane for days. I love me some Coltrane. So, okay, let's see how this sounds with this properly fading in now. And yeah, so this I'm liking a little more. I think I don't want to just go thirds all the way across here. So what I mean by thirds is, if this is note number 1, then that would be number 2, that would be number 3, and then I have dropped those by an octave. So this is technically, these are all 1/3 away from here. So this is your melody line, these are thirds played below. 5, 7, 3 moving to 3. Yes, that's correct. That's it. Yeah, essentially what you get going there, and that's a very good way to put it. It would be a 5, 7. It's kind of a fake out one. So the concept we're playing with here is known as a secondary dominant. And the secondary dominant is something that leads us to another place. So what we're essentially doing, it would kind of be like a 5, 7 of 5. And then we're moving back to the 1, because this chord is still ultimately a 1 chord. But you're totally on the right path with the way you're thinking. So I'm using this as a secondary dominant to kind of fake us out to think we've got an E, but then the E becomes the 5 of the next chord, which is the A minor again, because this is just basically just A minor all the way through. So it's a little bit of a fake out, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's super cool the way this stuff can potentially fit together. So yeah, so just using thirds, these would be known as parallel thirds, and that is perfectly acceptable in most types of music. Now, a lot of when we think of music theory, we often think of classical music. Now, I'm writing heavy metal here, and of course this is a lighter section, but there's in classical music, there is a guideline. I don't like to refer to music theory as rules, because you can do whatever you want. But there's this guideline in music theory, in classical music theory, where we don't use parallel fifths. And so that would be if these were all apart by 5 positions, one after the other. Those would be known as parallel fifths. But in rock music, in a lot of jazz, in a lot of pop, parallel fifths are all over the place. So if we're going for that particular sound, then of classical music, we don't want to use parallel fifths. Parallel thirds are much more acceptable, and because they have a different sound. The parallel fifths can kind of have a bit of an empty sound to them. But if we look at traditional contrapuntal writing, what we know as counterpoint, then typically, if we're using parallel thirds, we won't use more than 3 or 4 in a row, as generally speaking. SDFSFSS, that's quite a username you got there. Podcast clips on YouTube. I've got lots of podcasts I watch already. So anyway, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm not just going to use parallel thirds. So here, I like these two as parallel thirds as is. So this is a 3. I think I'm going to bring this up. So now this would be a 6. So this is an inverted third, basically. So we got a third there. 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put that as the same note. That'll make it a 5th. Using fifths is great. So you don't generally want to use 2 5ths in a row. And I think I'm going to put this one here as a 4. Now, even that, that is a 4 followed by a 5 or vice versa are still parallel perfects because I'm using perfect 4 and perfect 5. And that's a little bit frowned upon also. Let me try that there. That makes it a 6. I like that a little better. Now here, let's see, we got 3. So here I've got a 5 and then a 6. And now going back to the 5 is perfectly acceptable. Now I will also point out that in this case where I have all of these rests in between, some composers are much more likely to use parallel fifths or parallel octaves or parallel perfects if there is rests in between the notes. So some people would say, go ahead and do it here. And it really, a lot of this stuff, it's often presented as rules when we first learn it. But if you think of it as guidelines, and then you start saying, okay, well, here are the guidelines that we see. And then now, what do I, as a composer, what are my personal guidelines for how I comport myself musically? And that's a really good thing to figure out about yourself. So we got basically got 5, 6, 5, and this would be a 3 again. We got a 3 here. I'm going to leave that. Take this one to a 4. This one to a 5. Leave that as a 3. Let's see how that sounds. And I like the way that leads us into this second iteration of this guitar riff. That's kind of working for me. And I like the just leaving it off here, and just kind of going empty again. But I think that maybe up here, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to do much more occasionally. I'm going to come into some, so now this one, for those who may be less familiar, we got these clefs over here: treble clef, bass clef. These are all quite common. This is known as a C clef. It's fairly common on the viola. A little weirder to read. I'm not great at reading the C clef, but I know that's in the right place there. So I think I'm gonna start here just with some octaves of A, and kind of have this subtle thing down here. Oh, and I need to get my pizzicato marks on here again, and I can just copy them from here. Boom. Pizzicato. But I think I think that I might dig this. How do I want to do this? Oh. And this is not cooperating with me. One thing that Sibelius does as a program is it will not allow you to put notes in that make your measure the wrong length. So I'm in 4/4 here. You cannot accidentally do a 5th quarter note in here. It locks the measure length. And that was weird. When I switched from Guitar Pro, in Guitar Pro you can put extra notes in, and so it handles the note input very differently. Took quite a while to get used to that, but once I got used to it, it's pretty good system. So I think I'm going to put those there, just so we have a bit of a lead up to get a, I think these need to be a touch louder. There we go, let's try that. So, sometimes you need to make things quite a bit louder on your computerized version, your sheet music version of it. That is what I want. And actually, to be honest, and these will not, I won't have to put this kind of extra emphasis on them in my recording system. Well, what I do with this is once the song is ready to go, Tony Palheta coming in from YouTube says good night from Brazil. Awesome, Tony. And apologies if I said your last name wrong. Palheta? I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but thanks for tuning in from Brazil. We're going international here. Much appreciated. And again, a lot of times when I have to put these crazy markings in, I just hide them just so I can hear it correctly. But what I do with this is once I have composed the music, I can export everything out of this sheet music in a protocol known as MIDI, which stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. Musicians may already be familiar with this out there. I can drop that straight into my recording program, and then all of these instruments, like violins and violas and cellos and pianos and harpsichords and orchestras that I don't have access to, I can use simulated versions of them. And fortunately, the sampling technology has gotten so strong that it's like crazy how good some of them sound. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Okay. And then I think what I'm going to do here is just kind of every other measure or so, I'm going to drop some of these in. And so kind of like this. This is going to be real basic stuff here. And Black with No Tax says, is this Sibelius? Yeah, no, I did mention that earlier, but it's totally okay to ask those kind of questions, even if I've already talked about it. So yeah, I am using Sibelius here. It's a very powerful program. In my opinion, for most people, not worth the amount of money you'll have to pay. If you don't need all of the power that Sibelius has, go to MuseScore, which is free and is like 95% or more, 98% of what Sibelius can do. As I said earlier, the only reason I'm not on MuseScore is there's a couple of things it does with synchronizing to video and synchronizing to my live performances, and also because the drum notation in MuseScore is unfortunately it needs some work. But it's a great program. It's a really great program. Oh, you're learning Sibelius yourself? Cool. Yeah. Okay. That's great. I think I'm going to do this a couple of different ways here. I think I'm actually going to bring this one back to the half note. Oops. Hit the wrong key there. Not the first time I've done that. And this can be a really good kind of thing to help with the feel of your music. So here, I've gone an eighth note before to open us up. Dun, dun. Now here, I'm hitting this on the half note. And so this is going to be a little bit of a pause before it hits on the one again. Now here, I'm hitting it on the four, on the fourth beat of the measure. And so by altering your rhythmic device throughout the course of any piece of music, that can really help to change and, what do I want to say here? To manipulate the emotive impact of a piece of music. I think I teach music for a living, private music teacher, been doing that for probably 17, 18 years now. And I think that I am guilty of this, as are a lot of music teachers. We don't talk enough about the importance and the impact that rhythmic devices have on our music. we talk about what we were doing earlier about, chord construction and scale degrees and all of that. And if we use a sharp 4, sharp 11 on our chord, it's going to feel like this. And if we put that on the 9, it's going to feel like this. And then this here is a minor 7 versus a major 7 versus a dominant 7 versus a half diminished 7 versus a fully diminished 7. We do all of that. But this, what can we do with the rhythm? It's massive. And if you think about, kind of do a thought experiment. Go back in time. Where did music start? Mostly, this was not documented. This is not the kind of stuff they were writing down at the time. But very likely the first music was simply vocal music, singing. And it's arguable that percussion may have come before singing. It's really hard to know. So like I said, it's just kind of do a thought experiment. It's also not unlikely that percussive ideas and vocalizing musically would have come about essentially together. But that percussion, it's clapping your hands, stomping your feet, hitting your chest. This right away, you've got rhythmic devices happening. And so I always think about the rhythmic devices as being the foundation of my music. And that's what, when I opened up the stream today, I was talking a bit about, James Hu, new follower on kick.com. Thank you very much, James. Hope you are enjoying the show today. And for those who might be a little bit new to the Mad Poet Society here, this is, I occasionally do composition streams like this. Normally, I do more concert style streams. You can see my lights back there. I'll try to remember to go back to the sheet music, but I've actually got kind of a full light setup in here that synchronizes to my shows, and have a lot of fun with doing that. So mostly heavy metal. And what we're working on right here is my 68th solo album. It's titled Asymmic Writings Part 4. Every 17th album I do is part of the Asymmic Writing series, and this is just one song that's 52 minutes, 25 seconds long. As in every Asymmics piece is that. So, okay. And then this is just kind of a softer area of that song in particular. And it looks like my Nono live chat is not working correctly. Nono is a Chinese web streaming site, I believe. Okay, looks like we're good there. And thank you very much to all of my new followers today. I've had quite a few people coming in here, so some new people in stream, and I really appreciate that. And if you happen to be music theory geeks, then this might just be the right kind of stream for you. So right now we're just working with these pizzicato strings against this lighter kind of clean tone acoustic guitar. And here I think that if I start to go every measure here, and this is something too, like when you're doing something like this on its own would be the most completely boring piece of music you can imagine. But when you're using it just to accent another instrument, sometimes harmonically you don't need to do much. Now, by harmonically, what I'm talking about is what chords am I using? And so this is just these are just A notes. That's all on both staves, on the cello and on the viola. We're just hitting an A note. And now I may come back and fiddle with this a little bit, add in a little other information. But sometimes that's all you need to do right there, is just use this more as a percussive device. Like this is kind of almost taking the place of what I might do with the drum kit, but because I don't really want a drum kit on this. Let's actually change this up back to page view here. And I'm going to take this out of focus mode. Dan Walter White playing guitars now. I am not familiar with Dan Walter White, so I don't know the reference there. Apologies for that. Milovini, interesting username. Thanks for stopping in. Do appreciate that for sure. But I may have to check out this Dan Walter White because I am unfamiliar with that. So yeah, basically what I'm doing here in this part of the song, so it's been back here just kind of rocking out, and let me move back. So I got this, kind of raging stuff going. Breaking. I have never seen the show Breaking Bad. I never have. I know that it's about. I think it's about a guy who sells drugs to pay for cancer treatment or something. Bryan Cranston that's the guy who plays the main character. I really like him. He's played some cool stuff. I really enjoyed his character in How I Met Your Mother. That's one of my favorite shows. But no, so unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the characters and staff from that show. I've heard great things about it. I have, and so yeah. My main thing, I don't watch much because I'm just so busy, making music, playing guitar. I've been learning piano, and so yeah, I don't watch much. I don't watch very many movies or television or anything. So anyway, so this song is kind of rocking along. And then this is the intro. And so this is where it comes back. It reiterates the intro. And then it was going to do this slow down. And instead of doing a slow down, I decided to slow it further down and go much lighter and then go into the slow down here. So now I want to kind of work this. I think I've got those pizzicato strings. I may throw a little more stuff into this. I'm thinking that I may actually want to kind of build the bass and electric guitar and the drums through these last four measures here. And just to and I'll do a fade in on those as well. But I want those to be fairly sparse because I want it to build up to this. So there's going to be a fade in. And for those out there who may be music people but are not familiar with guitar as much, these numbers, this is guitar tablature, and that's just a graphic representation of where you would put your fingers on the guitar. And I'm really good at reading tablature. I'm better at writing in standard sheet music. So it's kind of a little bit of a awkward trade-off how I do that. And I'm getting a little bit at reading sheet music because I have been learning piano, so I've been learning more sheet music stuff with that. But in some of the places in this music, I get very complex with how I move about. But I feel like this particular section is just more about the simplicity of it. And that's also a really good thing, if you got music that's just at one place all the way. This song is 52 and a half minutes long. Not quite 52 minutes, 25 seconds. We'll call it 52 and a half. 52 and a half minutes. If you don't have some changes in your music, you're going to bore people. Most people are not going to be able to listen to a 52 minute long song no matter what. And that's just the way that it is. But if even for the people who can handle a 52 minute long song, you're going to need to put some changes in there. So I really like to kind of have that ebb and flow throughout my music. If I've got an album with 9, 10, 11 songs, some of them are going to be lighter, some of them are going to be faster, some are going to be slower. And so change up different instrumentation. I just played my 55th album a couple days ago, The Patron Saint of Murderers, and I was talking about when I wrote the title track for that song, I knew that as soon as I started, I'm like, this song has to be very heavy with harpsichord. And just for the feel I was going for with that kind of a title, The Patron Saint of Murderers, and the harpsichord really worked there. And I still maintain that if you're writing for harpsichord, the one criteria should be, would Lurch from the Addams Family approve of this? And the answer should be yes. Now here again, this might be kind of a fun place to change the bass up a little bit. And basically referencing this rhythm that we did earlier on the pizzicato strings, wherever those are at. Yeah, doing this same rhythmic device here, but on the bass. Oh, and I did something wrong. There we go. And I think I'll leave it as eighth notes there. And I'm gonna change this up a little bit. Now here for the percussion, and I was talking about MuseScore earlier. I really like MuseScore, but one of the things with doing percussion is it's very common to write percussion in multiple voices. And so we see here, I can have a whole note, and then I can have these other notes down here doing whatever. And that particular system in MuseScore, I think, needs a lot of work. If they would remedy the way that the multiple voices work, it would make a huge difference in that program. That I think is one of the weaker points of that program. And so I think with this, I'm just going to go, actually, I'm going to not even put the cymbals in on this one. And then this will all again just fade in here. And the because I use a plug-in for the guitar sound, the fade in will not work on the sheet music. It's just going to be full volume. A Dollar Burger. I mean, we got some great, guys got some awesome usernames out here. Dollar Burger, thank you very much for the follow on Kick.com. Much appreciated. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are enjoying what we got going on here. So I'll put the hair. So this will fade in the recording, but here today it will not. And I'm going to need, okay, so while I'm fine with having this fade in with just the A note, I don't like the transition of the A to the E. Now that would be known as a plagal resolution. So that would be going from the 4 to the 1. A perfect resolution, or you can also think of this as a cadence, a perfect cadence, a plagal cadence. So a perfect is 5 to 1. And so this, you know, if we play this musically, so that would be a perfect cadence, where a plagal cadence is like that. And so this is kind of referencing more of a plagal feel, which generally I really like, but I don't think it's happening for me right here. Big Orbit. Listen to Little Uzi Vert, one of the best composers. I will have to check that out. That is another name I'm unfamiliar with. And you know, it's cool just how many musicians you're never going to hear about. You know, there's so much great music being put out there. And I've heard it said, you know, that there's more bad music than ever before. And that's true. But that doesn't mean that there's not more good music than ever before. There's just more music than ever before. And man, sometimes I'll come across some piece of music, and it could be classical, blues, techno, rock, country, whatever. And I'm like, this is just so crazy good. And it might be something new, it might be something old. I just got a record. My wife and I, we listen to our record player, like 4 or 5 times a day. we listen to records all the time. And I bought a record by Ella Fitzgerald called Let No Man Write My Epitaph. And she had actually written a few songs for a movie of the same title. And so they used like 3 of her songs on that. She had a few others she had written. So her and her producer were like, well, we got these songs. Let's do this as an album too. So it's not really like a soundtrack. It's like the music that she wrote, that some of it got used in that movie. But it's just Ella and a pianist. And it's freaking awesome. It's so awesome all the way through. And of course, it's Ella Fitzgerald, man. I mean, her voice was brilliant. But yeah, good stuff. Very good stuff. But yeah, so I'm not liking what I'm hearing here. So I want to move somehow a little bit better to this. And we might just do this by just moving a few notes down, something like this. Now that I can get behind. I also think I might put in a little bit of a retardando for the last measure or two here, because I'm going from 124 beats a minute to 112, which is pretty noticeable. And then I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go contrary motion on this, on the bass. I can get behind that. I can get behind that one for sure. And if what's wrong with my camera? My camera died. I know what's going on. My wall plug-in sometimes gets wonky. It's gonna cooperate. Well, there we go. There we are. I forget what I was just saying. It doesn't matter. I was gonna say, if you wonder why I'm like looking around all over the place, I'm just checking all of my extra monitors with all my chat screens to see if any chats have come in. And most of them show up right over here on Sheep Chat, which kind of consolidates everything. But I always check my others just to make sure. So yeah, this is kind of good here. And then, where did we just go? I think this might just be workable. Let's give a listen to this section that we just did, and I'll have to modify around my positions of my hairpins and all that. Usually once I do, there's some automatic cleanup commands on here that reorganize the sheet music, and everything will probably be in place. Yeah, that looks fine. So basically we've come back here. Coming in from this section, let's give this a listen. Pizzicato strings. And of course the rock instruments will fade in. And, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want to do a retardando here or not. It's kind of an interesting feel dropping that 12 beats per minute right there. Let me throw in a retardando just over this one measure and see how that feels. And then I need to set up wrong buttons. I need to set this so it plays the way I want it to. So I'll bring this down to 113. And let's see how that feels. I'm gonna go with that. Yeah. And again, I have saved this file many, many dozens of times over the course of the last hour or so that I've been, how long have I been on here? Oh, hour and a half already, rocking. I dig it. That's great. So yeah, so that's cool there. So now that is technically going to be section O, because I brought that in from later in the song. So let's, and the only reason I have these sections on my first probably about 14, 15 albums, I didn't use any section numbers at all. And as I kind of developed my compositional style, I started to use these a lot more, and it just makes it so much easier to keep things organized. And so now I'm pretty stringent about, oh wait, where's, okay, yeah, so that's the O section, and then that also occurs here. Right, so on that one, the one we just composed over, I'm going to have clean tone guitars. Now here, I'm actually going to put a light distortion on the guitar. And so it'll be more of kind of a sound more kind of like that kind of a sound will be what we're going for there. And then on the last, iteration of it, it'll be the full-on distortion. And it's one of the cool things about writing a song like this, where we have this kind of length on the song, that you can play with things in different ways. Because this, I have 3 iterations of this. And this, basically it plays through that basic concept twice. And so that takes just under a minute to play that. And so you've basically got 3 minutes of just that in this song. Where if it was only a 4 or 5 minute long song, that probably wouldn't work very well. But when you're talking about a song that's 52 plus minutes, you can get away with that. So it's interesting too when you play a piece of music, even though this is got so much going on, as do all of my other Asymmic Writings pieces. There's just all of this stuff going on, but it's consistent. So you're playing the whole time, and so you're playing for 52 minutes, and you get into the zone, so to speak, in just a completely different way. And it's hard to describe without actually experiencing. We got Block's work following on Kick.com. Kick is happening today. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming in on Kick.com. Been a very fun time we're having over here. And of course, wherever you're tuning in from, as I've said earlier, I'm streaming out to 15 different websites. So thank you very much for being here from Kick, DLive, LiveSpace, Nemo, Vaughn, Africa, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, the other Facebook, Picardo, Trovo, Nono, Twitch. I may have missed a site or two there. Africa, I don't think I said that one. Wherever you're coming in from, thank you very much for being here. This is it's just always a good time having this stuff going on. And so I think I want to I got to think about what I'm going to do with this light distortion part. So I'll probably put some drums under that. And so I've got the initial clean tone portion of it set up with the pizzicato strings and that. And the pizzicato strings are acting in somewhat of a percussive nature. And then I've got the more rocked up version of it back here, which already has its drums and things in place. But I'll definitely want to put a different drum beat in the lighter distortion version. So yeah, we'll just have to see where that all goes. Okay, and part one of the things too that I'm kind of working on with this right now is through this middle section of the sheet music, I've got, like this piece here. I know I want this somewhere in the song. I don't know where it's actually going to go or where it's going to fit in the song. It's going to be just like kind of a break between two other pieces, but I don't know exactly where it's going to go. So part of what I'm doing is just getting things in order to get the full structure of the song. And let's see where the song is sitting lengthwise. Right now we're looking at about 46 minutes for this. And so I'm going to need about 7 more. Well, like I said, on the asymmetric writings pieces, they all come out to exactly 52 minutes, 25 seconds every single time without fail. Personal rule that I just do not break. And I get a kick out of the whole asymmetric series. It's just fun, in my opinion. So I do need to grab... So this very last bit here... That little motif, that also goes in every asymmetric writing song. Asymmetric writings song. Am I saying that correctly? I may not be. And so here I just opened the album up with it just raging. And so I want to put this orchestration, the string section, with it. And so I'm just going to copy these from where I did them before, pop them in here. And then we'll put this here. Boom. Have that taken care of. Oh, and now I've got this issue that I set this on pizzicato strings earlier, which means now all of the strings coming after that will also be pizzicato. So I need to go to the next string section and set them for arco, A-R-C-O, which basically means play straight again. Arco, I think, might stand for bowed. Pizzicato is plucked and arco is bowed, but I got to get these back to an arco position. And so because these now will be playing pizzicato. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. So let's get, where are we at here? Okay, so let's put those back to bowed, and we'll need our technique text and arco. Put that on all of them. And if I only assign that to, one instrument, so this one will still be pizzicato, this one will be bowed. So you do have to be very specific about what you want in these things. Arco there. And we'll also set it up here. And there. That's kind of funky the way that worked, but again, sometimes I just need to. I'm not sure why one's above, one's below. I'm gonna worry about that later on. Let's just make sure they sound right. No, one of those did not work. I'll bet I used the wrong kind of text. So which one is still okay? Okay, I did something wrong here, but I don't know what. There, we got it. All right. Zoom back in. And let's also get these with their proper volumes. And I notice I got some quieter strings there. I'll bet those should be, let me play this. Okay, that works. So let's see if we got these strings happening properly back here. I think that works. Let's listen to that with the full ensemble. And this 4-measure section here, this may be changing up, even if it's just rewriting the orchestral part, because that was made for the very beginning of the song where everything's building. So I may have to change that around. I'm not going to worry about it right now, but yeah, I'm kind of digging where this is all going here. And I just want to get back to, I need to properly label this. That is an O section, letter O. Boom. Let's get that out of the way. That. Yeah, it's going to be the light distortion one. Cool. Now, what do I'm not sure that I want to work. Yeah, let's do something other than this. I'm not sure exactly where I want to work yet. But I got my homemade mocha, and that's awesome. So what else do we got going on here? So is this my, what instrument? That should be my synths. Oops. Lost my position there. Let's bring that back. So is this my synth? Let me just play it. Yeah, that's my synths. And where are we at in the sun? So we got that lighter section we just did with the clean guitar and the pizzicato strings was back about 13 minutes deep. And now we're about not quite 10 minutes later in the song. And so 52-minute long, so 26 minutes is halfway through. So this will be a lighter section here. And I'll probably want another lighter section somewhere around 2/3 of the way through. And I think I may harken back. Let's actually do this. Let's come up into here. So where are we at? Oh, this is a cool thing here, where I've got this totally funky time signature, 6/8 plus 4/8. So it's like a 10/8 measure, but I break it up differently. And you could call it a 6/8 plus 4/8. You could call it a 10/8. You could call it a 5/4. It works in tens. That's the main thing. So a very, very awkward time signature there. But I think maybe right before this, we should just write, that was not what I meant to do, some piano music and have a bit of a piano interlude here. Where was I just at? So we're in F sharp minor there. And let's find that section again. What just happened to my brain? Oh, there we are, right there. Yeah, I think maybe leading from piano up into this could be cool. And so let's throw some new measures in here. Let's pull up our piano. Oh, what's going on with that? That's weird. I've only got half of my grand staff there. So a piano normally has two staves for left and right hand. And for some reason, it appears that half of my piano has disappeared. So I will just put in a new piano staff. So let's get rid of that. Let me actually just make sure that piano staff is in fact empty. It is. Okay, good. I won't be losing anything. Okay, let's put a piano complete back in here. Boom. And let's move up to that area again. Right there. So let's see. We're going to F sharp. So that's an F sharp minor. And that kind of goes back between F sharp minor and F minor. And then here we're in B minor. Okay. Cool. And so let's see. I think I'm going to go C sharp minor in this area and do piano stuff. So let's put in a key signature for C sharp minor. Right there. And now let's focus on our piano staves. Get that into page view. Let's put some more space in here to write. I'm not sure how I'm going to transition to this from, we've got kind of this more rockin' stuff back here. But I will work that out later. Now let's write some piano music here. And it's I like a lot of real low notes off of a piano. I really dig this. Oh, my piano's not running right now. Where's let me get that. I really like those low notes on a piano. Those are freaking awesome. So I tend to put a bit of low note stuff in. But basically here, I'm just going to go do a 5-1 move. And yeah, 5-1. And so here, that'll be a root. So we've got a 1 and a 3 here. And particularly when I'm composing, I kind of like to have I just put the pedal down. There's a command I can put in here. Where I'm using a MIDI command, control code 64 is the sustain pedal. And I just open that up. And then I think here, oops, going to go to the 8th note and just kind of lead us in. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make that. Oop. Slow down a little, Randy. There we go. That's a start. Hey, you know what? When I start something like this, it's like, okay, I decided to put a piano here for whatever reason. And it's like, I don't really know what I'm going for yet. So I just start putting in notes. And this is, when you're creating anything, you're writing a book, a poem, a script, you're doing a drawing, a painting, you're writing music, whatever it is, you're doing this creative work. A lot of times people are like, well, I don't know exactly what I want to do yet. Start doing it anyway. And you'll figure it out on the way. You'll start to get your ideas as you move forward. And I think that's a really important place to go with it, is be willing to just start putting stuff in. You don't know what your book's about? Well, just pick a word, write the first word, and then put another word behind it and see where it takes you. And that's all I'm doing here. I have no idea where this is going to go. I may change the tempo. What's my tempo here? Tempo's 116. Yeah, I may change that. I'll leave it there for now. But yeah, I just basically just start putting notes in, and if I like it, I keep it. If I don't, then I change it. Just like that. And then I just listen to it, and that's not a bad start. I think this may need to be slowed down a bit. We shall see. I'm not sure if I like this note being in there. That may not have been what I actually wanted. I think this does need to slow down. Let's find a where are we at? So let's make sure I know what I'm talking about. I think this should be at 116. Where's that at? Okay, yeah. So the last one's 116. Let's make this, so we're going to 105 afterward. Let's drop this down to about 96. Probably put that actually over here. And I'll make sure I get it in the right place later on. Cool. And, sometimes I kind of started this around, so I started on the G sharp chord, G sharp minor, to kind of lead us to this. I may actually try that with a D sharp major chord. Except I would have to actually do it correctly. Kind of harkening back to that secondary dominant idea we were talking about earlier. And so basically you're using the sharp 3 of 5, which is the 7th note of the scale. And then we talked earlier about that sharp 7 or major 7 being a leading tone to get us to a certain place. In this case, we're just bringing ourselves back to the root. And so this is kind of, this is basically a C sharp minor chord on this first position. But then, I'm putting this, so here I get to this F sharp note. So I can say, okay, well, let's do something with the F sharp. This could be a chord of its own, or I could be doing, whatever. So right there, if I leave this note as is, we would have an F sharp, and we have this, what do we got there? A C sharp note. So that would be just a 1 and a 5. So that would be like a power chord. Now, a lot of times when we have really low notes like this, they can kind of clash when they're too close, and that's just kind of a mathematical function. And that's why I'm using these more as sixths, basically an inverted third rather than a third. I don't know if I want this many sixths in a row, so I might actually take this and let's see, put this on something like that. No, because now I'm just back to a sixth again. It's just a different sixth. And I don't really, even though these probably won't be played by a person, so this now is a tenth apart. So you're stretching from on a B sharp there. Yeah, so technically a B sharp, because a B would be the 7 of your C sharp. So I got a B sharp, so that's a C note. And I'm stretching all the way up to a D note. It's a big stretch. A really good pianist will be able to do that. That one, that's not too bad. How does that sound? But another thing we can do, that's kind of messy sometimes getting there, is we can simply play one of these in a different place. So I can just put this on the right hand, and then I can have as big of a spread as I want. Could even put this, I think I like it better there. And now maybe if I was to run this in, so if I've got my D sharp, that's the 5 of G sharp, maybe actually put the G sharp back in. Yeah, I could do that, and then I can take it out of here. Kind of like that. I think I'm gonna roll with that. Yeah. Oops. Just lost my position on that. And I think I'm actually going to delay that a little bit, so we got a little more rhythmic interest going. That's getting closer there. And so what do we got here? We got back to an E. So here, anytime you're working with a chord, you could say, okay, I've got this E note. So that could be an E chord. So that could be the first note of an E chord. It could be the third note of what in this case would be a C sharp. Or it could be the fifth note of an A chord. And then major or minor appropriate to your scale. Major, minor, diminished, augmented, whatever is appropriate to how you're doing it. So this, I kind of got some options here. So I've kind of run around. I've got this F feel here. So it goes C sharp, F sharp. I'm kind of thinking might run this to an A. And put that on the C sharp there. So see, I'm just hitting so many sixths in this. And I'm not trying to do that. It's just kind of the way it's ending up. Well, that's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with sixths. They're sounding kind of cool. Let me just try. I'm gonna put this. So we got the E. Let's go. Let's put the C sharp here instead of here. Will that make it sound too hollow? That is a little hollow in the left hand, but we'll see. Normally, oops, well, I got something wrong here. So in 4-part writing, we typically do the 3 notes of a chord, and we duplicate a note or we put in an extension. So the extensions being other than the 1st, 3rd, and 5th notes of the scale. The other notes in the scale are extensions, and of course they can be modified to chromatic positions. It's not common to duplicate the 5, but this is one of the places where it's more common is when you have the 5 on the outsides. Also true of duplicating. Most commonly, you're going to duplicate the root. And that's not too bad like that. But I'm thinking maybe if I use an extension here instead, something like that. And I think I want, oops. I think I want to bring this in on the left hand before we hit the right hand again. So I'll do a half note here, pull this over. I'm going to get a little bit of interest going in the left hand. And commonly on the piano, the left hand is going to be a little less active than the right hand. The right hand has usually got more going on. By no means does it have to be. But it can really be nice to add in some of that low information for extra interest. So we got there a B. Let me put this on got our F sharp. Not digging that too much. Yeah, something's not hitting me right here. I like it up to that point. Yeah, this is not hitting my fancy at all here. And sometimes I'll be just kind of cruising along on a piece of music like this, and I'll write, might be 2 measures, might be 20 measures, and I'll just be like, you know what? Just highlight, delete, save, just gone, And that I think is a really important factor for people in a creative work. Is so often we are overly concerned with keeping what we've done rather than assessing what we've done. And it's really important to be able to make that assessment of, is this thing that I've created, is it what I was setting out to create? Because if it's not, then having that willingness, that capacity to just get rid of it, that can be really big. Now that I like a lot better. You see, like right there, and I've seen this many times, and I've done it myself. I don't want to sound like I'm not guilty of this, because by no means am I unjustified here. Faxry1125 just joined the channel on Trovo. Welcome, Faxry. If I'm mispronouncing your username, my apologies, but I don't get much, I don't get people coming in on Trovo very often, so thank you for being here, being a part of it. And let me just kind of reiterate, I haven't said this for a little while. I am the Mad Poet, you are an audience, we are the Mad Poet Society. I like to say that on every stream. But what we're doing here, just a bit of a composition stream, and it's very common for me to do more of a concert style stream, though I really do enjoy the composition stuff as well. And I know upcoming fairly soon, I'm going to be doing a stream where I tear this guitar apart and rewire the whole thing with new pickups and stuff. That should be a fun one. I still have a couple parts I need to get before I can do that. I've got my switches. I do need to get some different potentiometers for it. And I do have the pickups over here somewhere. But yeah, so I often do concert streams, but today we're just doing some composition, and we're working on the composition of my 68th album. I am currently in the process of recording my 67th. Those recordings are going quite well, a little on the slow side. I've been spending some extra time on album number 67 because I have set up a tribute song, a song called Rain Over Nowhere. It's a tribute to a former guitar mentor of mine. He passed about 7 years ago. And so I'm kind of trying to do justice to my guy Ron with that particular tribute song. And that's also a big long one. That's a little over half hour. It's actually 33 and a half minutes long, that particular piece. And it's really cool. I dig it. And I've got some other, I think, very fun stuff going on in that particular album. So yeah, I've been spending some extra time on that one, but those recordings are going well. And I do also sometimes, and I may do this in the near future, I'll get on and work on recordings. And so yeah, so a variety of musical things that we do. And so I've just been kind of composing away here. I just started this piano composition part, and I don't know if I dig it at all. Yeah, it definitely has some potential, but like I was just saying, it's really good to be willing to just toss out whatever you're working on. Todd, coming in from Live Space. Hey man, how are you doing? I hope you are doing awesome. I keep looking at that camera because that's the one I'm normally looking at when I stream. This Todd, hi. Todd over on Live Space, he's one of the kind of founding members of Live Space, and that's just a totally awesome streaming site. But yeah, hey, sorry it's been so long since I've been on. I think I told you a few months ago, my wife and I were working on working on her dad's house, and it was crazy. She ended up breaking a toe. It was her project, and so I was kind of helping a little bit. She broke her toe, and then I was helping a lot because you can't do much with a broken toe. And the house is all done, and we've just kind of been in disarray over here. But it's so good to be back streaming, and I almost feel like I kind of hosed myself because Live Space was in beta, and myself and this guy Do It Pruitt, we were kind of almost like the main two beta testers. We were on quite often, and then as Live Space went live, I was like kind of stuck doing this other stuff. I was like, oh man, I feel like I kind of missed out on some of the cool stuff that probably went on there. But it's definitely good to be back. Let's see. Todd says, doing great. We're growing. You probably see a lot of changes. The site is looking really good. I'm really pleased with where you guys have gotten to. It looks like you guys have been going for it, kind of busting your butts over there. And it seems like the community's really grown well, and the few people I've met since I've been back have been very friendly, and for those out there who don't know, Live Space is a newer streaming platform, and it's really solid. Like I said, I was in the early beta testing. I was always very excited about it then, and it's grown really well. So definitely check out the live dots. Is it? Let me make sure I get the website right. Live dot space, and that'll take you there. Follow me over there. Follow some other people over there. Check it out. It's very cool. And Todd has just been very, very. All of the people that founded it have been very easy to work with. I also hope, that I need to get on to LiveSpace and check out some of the other musicians. I'm sure they're there by now. So I agree. I would love to see more. I would love to see more musicians just getting out and doing shows like this, because we can. And when I hear people being like, I don't know how to get out and go live. I'm like, dude, you're in your bedroom. That's all. You got a webcam. That's all you need now. I mean, you don't have to have a crazy light setup like the Mad Poets got. Nothing wrong with that. It's cool to have that. But when I started, my light setup was way smaller than it is now. And I'm actually, I've got 3 more cameras coming in next week. So I'm going to move from a 4-camera setup to a 7-camera setup. And so there will be a lot more camera change. I'm hoping to make a little more professional looking setup with the camera changes, and kind of beef up my stream a little bit more. I may try to up my lighting game a little bit as well. I do have 30 lights going right now. It's pretty cool, but I want to do some other types of lights back there as well. So. But basically, long-winded way of saying, people don't have to go crazy like I do to do a great show. Like my friend Mandy over on Twitch, she's been on Twitch for a long time. She's got a great following, and it's just her and a guitar, man. And she has this awesome music, and she doesn't have a light show. She doesn't have multi-camera setup, and you don't need to. My friend Sally, I mean, these are just online friends, same kind of thing, and she's doing these really great ambient shows, and you don't need to have a crazy setup to do great stuff. So thank you very much. You're welcome for the shout out, and thank you for shouting me out to people because I definitely would love to grow this channel, and I'm strongly planning to be doing close to daily streams again now that I've got things back up and running. And whether they be concert streams or composition streams or recordings or working on a guitar. And I'm also really seriously considering trying some singing on stream. I've been working on my singing for years, and I'm finally getting to the point where I might maybe give consideration to the idea of the concept that I might think about the possibility of singing on stream. We'll see. Time will tell what happens with that. But so potentially good stuff coming up, and we'll see what happens with that. So, for now, just fiddling with this crazy 52-minute long song that needs to happen. And Sue Boy Named. What do you think of this? I'm often reluctant to open up links. I'm going to open this in a private window with no sound before I take a look at it. Dark folk guitar instrumental, Haunted Beautiful Death. Okay, so for copyright purposes, I'm not going to listen to this on stream, but I have got this window open, and once I'm off stream, I will check this out, because I gotta say, that looks pretty cool. Unfortunately, the copyright issues, and Sue Boy Named, thank you very much for coming in on Kick.com. I hope you are enjoying what we got going on here. But copyright issues can be a bit of a struggle, and particularly, Yeah, no, I definitely got the Johnny Cash reference there. It's a great song, and that was actually the lyrics from that were Shel Silverstein. It's a great song, great, and Johnny pulled. I love Johnny Cash, man. That awesome stuff, and he pulled that song off so well. But particularly with the way that I stream, I'm not just streaming to Kick.com. I'm actually streaming out to 15 different websites, and so. Between Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and Kick and Trovo and DLive and Ifrika and what else do I got going on here? LiveSpace. LiveSpace is really friendly toward this stuff. That would be no problem. Nono and Nemo and Trovo and Picardo and Rumble and Vaughn and just so many websites I'm going to. It's like easy to get knocked for copyright infringement somewhere. But yeah, I will definitely check that out. And if I see you again in stream on subsequent days, I will let you know what I thought of it. So thanks for the link. And thank you also for it not being a weird link. Because it's something, I was commenting earlier, a couple people earlier who were watching, we were talking about how Kick is kind of a weird place. There's so many super cool people, but I've also had to ban more people on Kick than on all of my other platforms combined. And in my last 2 streams, I have had to ban 2 people, and so it's like this weird thing. So it's like you get this. It is. It's new. It's full of trolls, but for the most part, people are totally awesome. But when I see a link, I'm like, oh, okay, what am I going to get? Some weird porn thing coming up here that they're trying to get me to, have a problem with on stream. So I hope that's not, I don't want to knock you personally, but unfortunately, we do have to proceed with caution in these initial stages of things. So, but yeah, so thank you for not being a troll. I do appreciate it. And thank you also for the follow. I saw you just followed on here. Got a bunch of new followers today. I got like 6 new followers today, which is great. I got a bunch of new followers yesterday. Yeah, I know I'm able to block links. I want to not do that as long as possible. I like to have things as open as they can be. But again, it's like, okay, where's that caution balance for any given streamer? And sometimes, people, I'm doing heavy metal. This stuff I'm doing today has been very, I'm doing this composition with my sheet music and stuff, and this is, part of a metal song, but that does not particularly sound like metal. But sometimes, I'm doing these streams, and the guitar is just kind of, raging, and it's. And so I think people kind of assume that I'm a little more on the side of wanting the more aggressive chats. But I'm like, I'm also a metal guy who wears a freaking tie and a vest. So, and, I was just mentioning earlier that I do hope to do some singing in the near future. And I feel like my vocals are getting to that point where I may do that. I will never cuss in a song. The bands I've been in the past have all, and it's not even about, the main thing about it to me is I've just become so completely bored with cussing in songs. It really is boring to me. It's like, tell me a story. Let me get into that kind of depth with that. So yeah, if I start singing in my songs, it'll be more about the story that I'm trying to get across than about anything else. Nonetheless, fun times. And yeah, Todd, now that you mention it, Todd over on LiveSpace, he did an AI had his AI write a poem about me, and it mentioned me singing. But at the time, I was not singing, so I can make that into an accurate poem in the near future, very possibly. I've actually done a few test recordings recently. I recorded Crazy by Gnarls Barkley, CeeLo and Danger Mouse. And I was really happy with the way my voice sounded on that. And I also did a recording of Billy Joel's Vienna, which is like just my favorite Billy Joel song. And I don't sound anything like CeeLo Green or Billy Joel, but it was like, okay, yeah, that it worked. You know, I'm on key, it works. My voice works for the way I'm doing these songs. So getting closer to it. Time will tell. Still, I'm probably more sure about my voice at this point than I am about this stupid piano part that I'm writing. But let's just put some more notes in here and see what happens. So we've got basically C sharp. We go G sharp dominant, 5-1 move to the C sharp minor. Got the F major here. F sharp. And then we're back here. We got C sharp, E, G. So we go back to a C sharp. I did not intend that. I intended this to be an E chord. And so let's redo that so it's not a C sharp. And so this will be E, G sharp, and B. Oh, let's get the E back in place, move the C sharp to the G sharp. Let's see if that E works. I do like that better. Todd says, hey, Poet, got to check out now. Happy to see you tonight. See you again soon. Hey, absolutely, Todd. Thank you very much. Great talking to you. Hope you have a great night and just keep on doing that thing, man. We'll see you soon. Yeah, I like that better with that back to the E chord. So we're C sharp, F, E. So C sharp minor. Let's get that guitar back to what we want to hear. So got the C sharp minor to the F sharp. Oh, that'll be F sharp minor to the E major. Okay, I can deal with that. And yeah, I think that actually works. It might just be that I don't like this measure right here. That might be all that is tripping me up. So maybe I may just take off that little anacrusis. The anacrusis is when you have basically a pickup. You start before your measure starts. That's known as an anacrusis. And I think I might just kill that anacrusis. It was a cute idea at the time, but sometimes you just don't do an anacrusis, baby. Now, I kind of like the way that B note is leaving me hanging. So if we turn that into, so if we go to a B, we'll be on the 6. So it'll be a B major chord. Let's just, so one thing you can do, if you just want to test out a chord, you can just build it in thirds like this. And now I've got the complete chord. I'm not sure if that's what I want or not. I like the B note. And then, once you know that you like the chord, then you can revoice it any way you want. And the voicing of a chord is simply what order are the notes in. So this would be a revoicing of a B chord. That's revoiced. This, there would be all these different ways you could potentially voice any given chord. But then, like I said earlier, you can say, okay, I like that B note. I think that B note should be on top. So I could revoice this chord and say, does that chord work when the B note is on top? and it does. That I like a lot better. And so when these were in what's known as root position, which means that the root, the B note in this case, is on the lowest note, I wasn't digging that. I definitely want that B in the high note. So let's put my 6 up on top this time. And I feel like I got something wrong here. I put those in the wrong spot. Okay, so let's just go, let's do the 6 there. And then we're gonna want the F sharp down here. Let's go octaves on the F sharp. Well, that, I don't know if I want to do octaves there. That actually kind of works. This would be a doubling of the 5, which is not as common. Certainly nothing wrong with it. But I do often, even though I don't necessarily follow them, I do give consideration to the rules, or what I prefer to refer to as guidelines of music theory when I'm putting these compositions together. But it also depends on the sound you're going for, because if you, like I said, if you're going for, you know, heavy metal, you're going to use a lot of parallel fifths. We call them power chords, and they work awesome on electric guitars. We're not going for a 4-part writing or a contrapuntal concept generally when we're working with that. So definitely liking the B chord here. I'm just not sure about the voicing yet. Actually, I'm going to go with that. And I think I'm going to half notify that. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to kind of move this. I'm just going to let this roll itself down. And then at this point, I'm going to try to get a pattern going. And this is something I don't always do with a piano composition for a piece like this, but I feel like if I just kind of get a pattern going for a little while, it's going to get the right kind of feel for this section. So this is going to be kind of like a little introductory 4-bar thing. And I definitely want something in the left hand here for this. And where do we want this to be? I'm going to go back to an octave here, but let's try that octaves of D there. Do not like the D. The octaves of D in the left hand. So we can always, take and just try something else, like, move that up to the 3rd there. No, I don't like the D chord at all here. And so, here, we've just got 4 notes going. So I could be like, okay, D's the root, and that would make, this A note the 5. I should say D sharp, and then, and that might be it. That would be more of a diminished type thing there. Out of curiosity, why opt for F sharp major, D sharp minor? Alec, are you talking about the key signature? I'm actually in C sharp minor for the key signature. Because F sharp major would be 6 sharps. unless you're referring to something else that I may have said. Feel free to clarify, because I'm not sure if I'm interpreting your question correctly. But I'm wondering what happened if I put these on a B note. Oh, you know what it might have been, Alec, is when it was sitting right like this, these purple ones over here, yeah, so that's actually showing whatever key signature you're currently in. So when it's right here, I was on B minor prior to this. And so it does look like 6 sharps when it's sitting like that. Yes. So I totally understand what you were seeing there. So yeah, in this case, C sharp minor. And a lot of times, most of what I do is generally minor. I'm mostly heavy metal music is what I write. And this is part of a heavy metal song. I don't know how long you've been watching, but this is actually a heavy metal song that's about 52 and a half minutes long. On every 17th album I do, I write a 52-minute, 25-second long song for my album. And this is actually for my 68th album. And so generally when I go to E flat or D sharp minor, I generally opt for the flats, for 6 flats rather than 6 sharps. But it's kind of a toss-up at that point, because you're at that 6 o'clock position on the circle of fifths, and so you're going to have that one wonky note either way. If you're in the F sharp major, 6 sharps, then you have an E sharp note, and if you are in the G flat major, then you end up with the C flat. So there's going to be that one wonky spot no matter what at 6 sharps or 6 flats. I've always had a little bit of a preference for E flat over D sharp, and but yeah, generally, if the question is why would you choose that particular key, there's a couple of reasons. For me, I like to change keys. The way I don't know if you're familiar with my music, but so when I write my albums, I will generally use multiple keys throughout it as I play. It's instrumental music. Like I said earlier, I'm hoping to do some singing soon. But I will record my rhythm guitars, and then when I do my lead guitars, it's largely improvisational. I'll generally write like a motif that will give me the idea for where I'm going to go with my improvisational solos. And I just get bored if I do like an entire album in one key. So if I did a whole album in E minor, then I would just be like bored stiff playing E minor over and over. And I also find that when you're playing, when you're improvising, and you are, so if I'm playing an E minor, I know that I've got all 6 of these open strings available to me. And that can be used as a safety buffer or whatever, right? Or just, and sometimes it can be really cool, like, to exploit those open strings and use them for really cool musical ideas. But if I play, for example, in B flat minor, and I'm on a standard tuned guitar here, so in B flat minor, I have no open strings available. And so now you have to think fundamentally differently with all of your patterns, because if I hit an open string, I better have a good reason for it. I've got nothing against playing notes out of key. I do it with intent, but those open strings aren't just a failsafe like they are in A minor, B minor, or E minor, because those 3 minor keys have all 6 open strings. And of course, their relative majors do as well. And so I may opt for something like E flat minor, which has only 1 open string available, which would be the 2nd string. which technically in the case of an E flat minor, that is no longer a B string, it's a C flat string, because there's not a B note, there's a C flat note. And the enharmonic equivalents are crazy like that. But I may choose it just for that reason, to force myself to not have those open strings available and to look at the fretboard a different way, to be, visualizing the fretboard a different way and just having that different information in my mind. So, it's just that's kind of what's going on in my head when I think of that kind of thing. And I know I've definitely used B flat minor, E flat minor quite a few times through the course of my albums. I'm trying to remember, there's I think it's the second to last song on my 60th album, which is called Finite Realities, the album. I'm pretty sure the second to last song on that was E flat minor. I haven't played that one in a while, so I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's kind of a bit of my thought process there. And then in a case like this, where I've got this one song that's 52 and a half minutes long, again, writing that in just one key would be so boring musically from my perspective. So I want it to go all over the place. I got all kinds of key signatures. So just looking at this one, I've got G minor, A minor, C minor, D minor, B minor, F sharp minor, G minor again, E flat minor, E minor, D minor there. Here I'm in C sharp minor, so F sharp minor. So yeah, I'm using all kinds of different keys. True, totally true. Modulation absolutely provides for awesome musical opportunities. I totally get navigating these irregular, uncommon keys. Oh, you're a jazz musician. Oh, so yeah, and jazz. Jazz is just a totally different realm than what I do here. Interestingly, I was interviewed recently by a guy named Mark Cook. He's got a small YouTube channel that I believe he's kind of dedicating it to music interviews. And we were talking about my influences, and a lot of people are kind of surprised to find that my primary influence as a guitarist is actually John Coltrane, who I would imagine as a jazz musician, one of the greatest jazz saxophone players of all time, arguably the greatest, definitely my favorite. And the thing about Coltrane for me, Coltrane was really kind of my introduction to jazz. And I love me some jazz, man. I've got Coltrane and Davis and Monk upstairs for my record player, and I've got a lot of jazz. But when I first heard Coltrane, a friend of mine played it for me. He was in a jazz appreciation type of a class, and he pulls me aside at this party. He's like, "Hey, come listen to this." And he played Giant Steps, which is just crazy, And so I'm listening, and I'm like, dude, this is cool. This is really cool. And that was really where I kind of got into jazz. It was shortly after I got out of the military. And so that was kind of my introduction to it. But what I liked about Coltrane, where the Coltrane influence for me came from, was that he uses the whole instrument. And on guitar, I've talked about this before, but on the guitar, a lot of times we find people playing what's known as in the box. So you have this scale pattern, and say, okay, I can just a little over 2 octaves. There's a lot you can do without ever moving your hand. And so I can just sit there and play in G minor like that, and never have to move my hand up and down the fretboard. But I didn't like that, so I heard Coltrane doing this. I'm like, that's what I want. And I think of it when I think of Coltrane or any of those great players, the Bird or Davis, Brubeck. I mean, there's so many of them. My brain's just kind of like going crazy right now. It's just like this controlled chaos that they're just everywhere, and they know exactly where they want to be, and they know exactly how they want to get there. But it sounds a little chaotic to do it. And I wanted that on the guitar, so I was like, okay, how do I get so I can be playing up here and then playing down here, and so that's kind of how I developed my personal approach to the guitar, and I will do a little bit of jazzy type stuff. So I was playing. What album did I play last night? I was doing a concert style stream. I think I played Patron Saint of Murderers last night. It's my 55th album, and this I'll do on a lot of stuff. I'll be like, okay, well here, I'm in E minor, but my guitar is on the D chord. So instead of just playing E minor, I'm going to go down and I'm going to play a D Dorian over this D minor chord. And then it goes to a C. I'm going to play, a C Phrygian over this. And so you're coloring up, and it's not necessarily a jazz approach, but it's more kind of jazz-esque, where you're looking at the individual chord. What can I do over this chord, instead of just what is my overall key, or this series of chords? Maybe, hey, I'm in D minor in this song, but these three chords could kind of fit into this, G minor, or whatever, and particularly with metal, as you may be aware, often we're just using power chords, so we're not actually filling out the entire chord. So I'm like, okay, well this D could be major, it could be minor, it could be, I've got these other choices for it. So I do like that jazz-ish approach that you could potentially take and color up. And sometimes you do it and you're like, oh, that was a mistake. And sometimes you're like, oh man, that was freaking awesome, I gotta remember that. And then of course I don't remember it. So yeah, I heard a quote from Geddy Lee of Rush that I really liked. He said, if you have 3 influences, you're a copycat. If you have 100 influences, you're original. And I think that's a great point. And I feel like a lot of times as musicians, we kind of we pigeonhole ourselves into a position where it's like, this is the kind of music that I play. So I've gone out and I've learned a lot of classical guitar. I love my classical guitar. So I've got a lot of influences from that. I've learned from tons of metal musicians. I've learned country songs. I've learned some jazz stuff. I've taken classical piano and be like, how can I play this on the guitar? And you just try to go all over and get as much as you can for input, because that's going to affect your output. Alex says, once you expand your outlook beyond the key and begin thinking either modally or even just out of that diatonic box, it completely allows for much broader expression. It's perfectly put. That's completely true. You look at like this little piece of music I'm writing right now, and where's my composition screen? This is completely diatonic in C sharp minor. Nothing crazy going on here. But again, it's, you look at this and you say, okay, what is the function of this piece of music? This isn't supposed to sound jazzy. This is gonna be sandwiched in between 2 raging bits of metal, and this particular approach is gonna work well here. Now, where this goes on the next measure, I don't know yet. But you're right. It's even if I write this section completely diatonic, knowing that I have the options, and I don't know how long you've been watching, I had a secondary dominant as an anacrusis in the measure before where this currently starts, and it just didn't sound right to me. I love secondary dominants, but in this particular case, I'm like, you know what? Not feeling that sharp 7 or sharp 3 of 5, if you prefer, however you want to look at it. So, you have the option to go either way, and I really like that. There's another section of this song where I did a kind of this chromatic run down and back up on the root of a series of chords, and so definitely not diatonic in that case, because I was going for that particular kind of stepping down and stepping back. I think I went down and then up. I'm not even, there's so much music in this thing. Like I said, it's 52 and a half minutes long, but So yeah, I love that kind of chromaticism and particularly learning to use both diatonic and non-diatonic information. And for those who may not be familiar, if you're not a music theory geek like Alec and I, diatonic means you're using the notes of a scale. And chromatic or non-diatonic means you are using notes from outside of that set of notes that's in the scale. So basically you can think of it as, you've got 12 notes in an octave. Generally speaking, when we build a scale, we use 7 of those notes and we omit 5. There are other ways you can build 6-note scales, 8-note scales, 9, 5. There are ways to do this. But as a general starting point is generally a 7-note scale. So you can absolutely, those 5 notes that are not in the scale, those would be your chromatic or non-diatonic notes. And there's all kinds of extremely cool ways you can use those. And you can make absolutely amazing music being completely diatonic without using any out of key notes at all. There's a lot of great songs that are like that in every genre of music. and then you got other songs like if you look at Rocket Man by Elton John, that's largely a diatonic piece in G minor, but he does use the secondary dominant of the C major to F, and that one bit out of key there, I believe he uses it, it's been a while since I looked at it, as he moves to the chorus. I could be wrong. Just that little bit out of key there just adds this bit of depth, and it gives him additional notes for him to use in his vocal melody, and so just that little bit. Sometimes that's all you need. And there's every level in between there, whether you're going to be some John Coltrane style jazz, more straight ahead Judas Priest style heavy metal, or you're going to be George Crumb style avant-garde wackiness that not very many people can get behind, or you're going to go another direction and John Cage style stuff where you're bringing in tell your musicians to bring in their kids' toys and just have anything you can use to make sound. There's so many ways you can do this stuff, and that's why when you hear people who are just really into music, one of the most common things that I hear experienced musicians saying is, I've been doing this for X number of years, 40 years, 50 years, 30 years, and I'm still learning all this new stuff. And that's exactly how I feel. I'm like, I've been playing for about almost 40 years, and I'm learning new stuff all the time. And it's so wild how much there is that can be involved in this kind of thing. And so like earlier, I was looking at this piece of music, and I'm like, I don't know if I like all these 6 I'm using, but I'm like, but they kind of sound like what I want, so I'll leave them in. And then later, I might look at this again tomorrow and be like, you know what, I'm going to change a couple of these, or maybe I'm going to change all of this. I might end up doing this. Boom, I've done that many times. So I want to hit this chord here again, because I'm not sure where I want this. I'm not sure if I want that to be an octave. I like it much better with the B, definitely. Yes, I had that initially on the D sharp, and that was not running for me. Nah, don't like that. So I think I'm gonna leave that there. Like I said, I think I'm gonna consider the kind of 4 measures here my kind of intro to this section, and then I'm gonna try to get some sort of a pattern-based thing going. I don't have any idea what that pattern's gonna be yet. I think actually I want to The B sounds all right there, but it's just with the B here, it's just too much of the same thing going down there. And so what else? So same thing I ran into earlier here somewhere. I ended up with I wanted the B note in the upper voice, but I don't want it to be a B chord. So then we can always look at, where could the B fall in a chord. Now, of course, the B could fall anywhere. The B could be an extension. It could be the 7, the 9, the 11, the 13, whatever. But if you look at the primary thing, okay, the B could be the 1 of a B. It could be the 3 of a G, or it could be the 5 of an E. And earlier I went with more of the E concept, if I recall correctly. I might be thinking of the wrong spot. But let's consider this. G sharp. And so with the G sharp, the B. I don't think I want that 4 there. Now that's kind of nice. And this could kind of, one thing I'm thinking here, we were just talking, Alec and I were just kind of discussing some of those jazzy principles. This I almost feel like I might want to take this to the G sharp as the new tonal center, which would give me kind of a G sharp Dorian feel right here. And wait, no. This would give me a G sharp Phrygian feel instead of C. Yeah, so this would be like a G sharp Phrygian. And so when you think modally, or at least when I think modally, I feel like this is probably fairly common. One of the big things to think about is, what is it that makes this mode what it is? And the answer to that is a modal tone. So in a Phrygian, the modal tone is the second note of the scale. And so in this case, this is going to be an A. So if I were to not use the A note in this, whatever this is going to be, then there would be no way to really show this, to really feel this as a Phrygian concept. So I need to, and that A would be considered a flatted 2 in this case. And so, since I'm trying to get kind of a pattern going here, I definitely want to use that A in my pattern, because I'm feeling this kind of G Phrygian thing, G sharp Phrygian. And that's potentially workable there. We got the flat 2, going back to the G sharp there. Now maybe hit the 7 here. I think I kind of like going back to the root, but I feel like maybe only thing here is I don't feel like this is necessarily going to be a very powerful musical. It doesn't necessarily need to be powerful. I don't know if this feels like the pattern that I'm looking for. So what we might find is this ends up being just another 4 measures of my intro, or maybe I won't end up using patterns. A lot of times you'll be working on a piece of music and you'll be like, I'm going to do this kind of pattern-oriented blah, blah, blah. And then you end up not doing pattern-oriented blah, blah, blah because you do something else. I'm definitely liking the rhythmic idea here. So it's like same thing here. So if I want to use this G sharp Phrygian, then I may not want to go too hard back to the C sharp chord. So I might want to look at, okay, what else Could the C sharp have kind of going on? Let's see here. Alex says, it was great to briefly chat. I've subscribed and saved the link so I can listen to your music later. Unfortunately and ironically, I have my theory class at 8 o'clock tomorrow. So, hey, that's awesome. That is super cool. Enjoy the music theory class and keep on jazzing, man. That is awesome. That I'm glad you found my channel. I am currently planning to stream as close to daily as I can. Of course, it won't be every day, but would love to see you stop back. You've been very pleasant to chat with. And sleep well. Enjoy your theory class. We'll see you again soon. Take care, guy. All right, so with the C sharp, we could say the C sharp is the 1, the 3, or the 5. Of course, an extension, but it's good for the brain to jump to the primary chord tones first. So if this is a 1, that would be the C sharp, or it could be the 3 of the A, which would make an A major chord. Going to a little bit of a major feel could be good here, or it could be the 3 of the F sharp. No, sorry, that's incorrect. What I see, yes, 3 of the A, 5 of the F sharp. And really the F sharp might be good. We kind of prepped for an F sharp here because we have this F sharp and it's 7, and it's the E, which matches the E here. That would be, so we kind of have an F sharp thing going on there. Let's try that A and see how that feels, and then decide if we're going to go to the. So we got the A, the C sharp. The A feels pretty good, and this is kind of a cool thing. So I've got the A, C sharp, and E. So that's an A major chord. If I just move that E to be an F sharp, then F sharp becomes the one. You have an F sharp, A, and C sharp, and that becomes the F sharp minor chord. So just by changing that one note, you can change to a completely different chord, and that is a really awesome thing about chord construction and chord voicings. Let's try that with an F sharp. Those both sound really good. I think I'm going to go with the A. One thing I like with the F sharp is you get this stepwise motion over these 3 notes, which is really good. And then you get this contrary motion. Well, I guess you got contrary motion in these 2 chords, and in these 2 chords you get similar motion. Parallel motion that we talked about earlier is a type of similar motion. So these are similar motion because they're moving in the same direction, but this moves 1 position on the top note, and it moves 2 positions. So it moves by a second here, and it moves by a third here. For parallel motion, they would both move by second or both move by a third or whatever. So they'd be the same interval in both cases. I don't think I explained that very well, but it was technically accurate. So I like that, but I think I like so this would be considered oblique motion, where the top note does not move and the other, or one of the notes does not move and the other does. So we kind of have contrary motion followed by oblique motion, and I feel like the A chord just works a bit better there. I do not feel like I'm getting the pattern-oriented concept that I was hoping for, but who knows? We'll see what happens. And I feel like I kind of want to bring that A note back in some way to help reinforce the Phrygian. here, I think I'm going to, oops. Yeah, okay, that'll work. And I don't want to just repeat those chords. I was just getting my rhythmic idea in place. That's actually kind of nice. I don't like this, actually. My original idea was to put this here as a dotted quarter. So here I think I will get back to that. I don't I like the G sharp there. Let's take that down to the D sharp. And we've got F sharp and D sharp. So those are thirds. Still want that one to be on a D sharp. I think that the B and the D sharp, or to be a B major dyad. So I'm definitely not feeling my pattern emerge here, which is fine. But I'm thinking that this is going to be more of maybe possibly an 8 measure intro. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 6 measures here. And I don't really think I went too much of a Phrygian feel. You know, I kind of had that idea here. I think I just kind of ended up using a G sharp flat 9 chord, G sharp minor flat 9 chord, really. Ish. What do we got here? So we're on a D note. The F sharp is not working for me there. Not at all. Maybe this will be a place just for some octaves. I'm not liking that. I like the D note in the D sharp up here. Do not like anything I'm doing down here. And it might just be that octaves are going to be a terrible idea right here. Because sometimes octaves are a terrible idea. Oh, or I could just do a B chord. And that will be just fine. And maybe if I was go to an F sharp on that one. I like that. That's better. And let's just do a little contrary motion here. So we've got a C sharp, an E, and then we have a D sharp, and D sharp. I don't know if I want to do a D sharp and D sharp. Now just take it back to the B. The octaves are actually kind of working for me there. I can take that up to an F sharp and have a nice little contrary motion between those three. Yeah, and right here, actually, how many measures is that? 1, 2, 3. So that'd be 8 measures. That might be my little intro section, actually. Something like that. And maybe if I were to octave there. And I feel like I want one more. I think that's actually kind of good. And I feel like if I was to take this, we got the contrary motion, but if I was to actually do something like that. What if I was to do a 7 there? I would change it up. I don't like the 7. That would be, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I could take, because this will be pedaled, so I can just let that B note ring over. I don't like that. I don't know if I like this repetition of the B note twice in a row here. I like that a little better. That way, because we did the octaves of the D sharp sound fine here, but when I go to the D sharp and the F sharp, then we're getting that D major chord in there. Let's listen to this 8 measures and see how it sounds. Now, so I definitely feel like that's got us to a good kind of anticipatory spot. So the question is, if I go to a C sharp next, or if I go to a G sharp next, what's going to work best there? Might not be either of those. I think that, how long have I been streaming here? I've been streaming for over 3 hours, which is pretty awesome. I think I'm going to cut this stream here, and I feel like I've gotten a pretty reasonable amount handled on this, which is great. Written some, I think, reasonably good stuff. And we've got a lot of music here on this. And there will be a lot more coming. 65 pages so far. But yeah, I think I'm going to call that a day for the day. Again, I do appreciate everyone who came out. Tippers, new followers, subscribers, chatters, lurkers, wherever you came in from. Thank you very much for being here. I'm planning to stream tomorrow. Most likely that will happen. I'm not sure. Probably just normal playing an album type stream. But we'll see where that all goes. And until then, have a great time.